May 6th, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Planning Commissioner meeting to order. Can we have a determination of quorum, please?
Jim Barnes.
Here.
Michael Flick.
Here.
Linda Kennedy.
Here.
Dan Lazareski. Here. Kate Nelson.
Here.
Amy Owens.
Present.
Rob Pierce.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. Will you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, can we please have the ethics law announcement?
Jen Gustafson for the record. Commissioners are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, number 1, you have received a gift or loan. Number 2, you have a pecuniary interest. Number 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or number 4, if you've provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter that's being considered here tonight, please remember to disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And furthermore, please remember that you must abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it's clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you've had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and read the Zoom instructions. This meeting is being held in person at the County Commission chambers and also via Zoom. To attend the meeting via Zoom, you can log in by typing zoom.us into your computer, click Join a Meeting on the Zoom website, and enter meeting ID 842-7265-9406. If anyone has any computer issues, they can join the meeting via telephone only by dialing 1-669-900-9128 and enter meeting ID 842-7265-9406 and press pound. For those wishing to provide public comment via Zoom, you can utilize the raise hand feature during any public comment period. And to provide public comment via telephone only, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute or unmute. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please have the appeal procedure, Mr. Lloyd?
Yeah, most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed to the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 775-328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment in chambers. I have no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, move on to item number 6. We do have one change on the approval of today's agenda, and that is item number 8A. We are going to pull that from this month's meeting, and we are going to revisit that in June of 2025. Other than that, we have no other changes. Can I get a motion to accept with the change, please?
Commissioner Lazareski, motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Kennedy seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, thank you. That passes. Item number 7, approval of the April 1st draft minutes. I assume everybody got a chance to look at that. Do we have any changes? Okay, can I get a motion to accept as written?
Commissioner Lazareski, motion to accept the April 1st, 2025 draft minutes as written.
All right, and I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, moving on to item number 9A, abandonment case number WAB 24-0006 for JC Investments LLC, Series 5, for possible action. Mr. Lloyd, please announce.
Will do. For hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve an abandonment of Washoe County's interest in a 144.86-foot long, 33-foot wide government patent access and utility easement traversing north-south and bisecting the property, as well as a 231.21-foot long, 13-foot wide portion of a 33-foot wide government patent access and utility easement along the southern property line. Representing Washoe County in this matter is Planner Tim Evans.
Tim, floor is yours.
Thank you. Tim Evans, planner. So the case before you today is abandonment case number WAB 24-006. So the subject property is located at 15850 Fawn Lane, and the subject property is just over 2 acres, and the surrounding parcels are similarly developed to this one, with single-family dwellings and accessory structures. The subject property is located within the forest planning area, and the property is zoned low-density suburban and general rural. So the request before you is for the abandonment, to summarize what is on the screen, an abandonment of a 33-foot wide government patent access and utility easement that traverses various parts of the subject property. So on the screen is the site plan that was submitted with the abandonment application. The area highlighted in yellow is the area that the applicant is proposing to abandon, and the area in red is the area that the applicant is proposing to keep, and which is a 20-foot, keeping that 20-foot wide access area that will serves properties to the, or a property to the east, or it would be the right side of that screen. So the project was sent out for review to multiple departments and agencies. A total of 17 agencies reviewed the project, and 1 agency provided conditions, which are included in Exhibit A of the staff report. And so a total of 7 parcels were noticed, and 1 public comment was received. That public comment was in relation to access, and it is the comment that we received is for that property, or the property owner is on the far right of that screen, which would be that highlighted large parcel on the right side of the screen there. The property owner of that property is the one that provided the public comment, and his concerns were in relation to being able to retain access. And so revisions were made to the proposed abandonment such that 20 feet of that access easement is being retained. So that would be that red portion that I showed earlier. And so staff is able to make all 3 required findings as detailed in the staff report. And staff recommends approval with conditions and provides the motion in the staff report as well as on the screen. And I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant may have a presentation.
All right. If the applicant would like to do a presentation, that would be a good time.
Hi, my name is Daryl Meal. I'm representing JC Investments, and I will be future owner of the property. My only question on it is that for that east-west abandonment, that easement only goes halfway to the through the property, does not go to the rear of the property. I was asking, instead of just the 13 feet, that the 33 feet all be taken out, and, you know, the easement to be abandoned. I don't see the reason for keeping it only going halfway through the property and then it stops. I don't see any reason for that, and I just wanted to address that with everybody.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment in chambers. I do have a hand raised on Zoom. Dr. Lee Conley, please unmute. State your name first and last for the record, please.
It's Vicki and Lee Conley, Conley.
Thank you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
My only point is the access to that easement, that far back parcel, that easement does not access that back parcel. So I'm not sure why that person that commented for access is making that comment. That property is owned by someone who Rootsis and Perdon went to court with to prove that the patent exists. These patents and these easements are put in place to access only existing homes, not that back 13 acres that that guy commented on. That's all I have to say. If you have any questions on that, you can let me know.
Okay.
I have no further public comment. Looks like we have one public comment, Chambers. Sir, when you're finished, could you please come over here and fill out a public comment sheet? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Arnold. I'm at 15862 Fawn Lane. The Conleys are to the north of us on Fawn Lane. She's referring to a gentleman named Scott Spittler. There was a case, Larry Perdone versus Scott Spittler. It was tried in the Second Judicial Court of Washoe County and appealed in the Supreme Court that any STA patent easement was not to be used as an access for other than the STA patent easement. Currently, I'm involved in a litigation just to the south of my property on a same STA type patent, different patent number than the one existing on said parcel. I've spoken with Washoe County Planning Department regarding abandonments. I know it's more commonly being reviewed than before. I know that this is something that's been tried and challenged for Washoe County for a long time. These patents seem to be quite a burden. The verbiage in the STA patents are fairly vague and easy to challenge. So again, currently, on a different matter, we're involved in an STA patent dispute litigation in Washoe County Second Judicial Court. Needless to say, I'm not opposed to the abandonment on this said parcel. My property adjoins it. I was sent a notice and a letter to be present and speak on our behalf as property owners. If this consideration is made, it needs to be made for everyone on Fawn Lane and other STA patents. There shouldn't be exceptions. It should be one or all. I understand that there's logistics behind that, but these patents and verbiage are almost all identical in nature. There's really not a lot of verbiage that the federal government placed in these patents. So I know you might be wiping your hands clean of your involvement in it, and I do believe the verbiage with Washoe County states that you're relieving your interest in it. It doesn't necessarily mean that civilly that all parties can be relieved of their interest in it. So it could probably still civilly be disputed, even though Washoe County relieves their interest in it. But any portion of that 33 feet that you grant to be removed from it, you're altering and adjusting an SDA federal patent that is still recorded and recognized today on every other parcel up and down Fawn Lane. I know there's a few that have been abandoned and agreed to, but as far as terms and conditions go, if 20 feet is acceptable on the parallel side of mine, then 20 feet should be accepted on our side, northerly and southerly. And in preceding this, I will request the same.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
I have no further public comment in chambers, no further hands raised on Zoom.
All right, I'll bring it back to the board for questions.
I have a
Comment.
question.
Go ahead.
What's the difference
You
between,
have to address it to somebody.
I don't know who would be best to answer
Okay.
this. What is the legal difference between something with a patent and a regular abandonment that we make decisions about? I haven't heard that term before. I don't understand it.
I'll try my best to answer this question, but the understanding is that throughout much of Washoe County, the federal government, through an act of Congress, established a number of these easements in order to ensure that access and utilities are provided. Essentially, these were established without really understanding the terrain and the constraints on each property. So what you find is that along the periphery of most of these properties, the federal government just established blanket easements to ensure that access would be provided indefinitely. And that happened long before really these properties were developed. And now that the properties are becoming developed, we're finding that access is provided throughout most of the developed area. And what you're finding, and you've seen a lot of these coming through over the last several years, is that when we review these abandonments, we ensure that that access is not going to be that these abandonments will not take place in such that it would alleviate an easement or an access to a neighboring property. That really is the primary focus of the Planning Commission in reviewing these abandonments. But essentially the term patent easement came because it was an act of Congress that established the easement versus other easements that are granted through the Washoe County recordation.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
I've got a question for staff. So currently, the easternmost parcel, the Stitzer parcel, is accessed through the 33-foot wide easement that we're abandoning, or how are they accessing their parcel?
Tim Evans, planner, so yes. So as far as how they're accessing that property to the east, there is a gate just after that 20-foot wide access that is being retained, that I showed on the site plan. There's a gate that's just after that they utilize to access that property. I specifically spoke with the public commenter, Scott, and that was what he indicated is that's how he accesses his property.
And that's the reason behind leaving the 20 feet of the access easement on the property?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lazareski, question for staff. What's in the report is that the property owner agreed to amend their requested abandonment to leave those 20 feet along the south property line. The testimony we heard tonight was that he would actually like all of it abandoned. What do we have in writing in terms of the request?
Tim Evans, planner. So as far as that goes, the initial proposal that we received almost probably 8 months to a year ago or so was to abandon everything. And then there was a revision talking to their land surveyor, and that was the documentation that was given, was to retain that 20-foot access. And that is what we have in writing, is to retain that 20-foot.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Just a little more background from staff. There's no more easements. There's no civilian, say, for example, civilian easements or any other easements beneath the patent.
Tim Evans, planner. So as far as I'm aware, there's not. It's just what is proposed there and shown on the site plan.
Because if we abandoned it and there was, say, some senior easements, then they would still be in effect. Correct?
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else got anything? Do we have any discussion? No? All right. If we don't have any other questions or discussion, I'll open it up for a motion.
Commissioner Lazareski, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and the information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve abandonment case number WAB 24-0006 for JC Investment LLC, Series 5, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all three findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code, Section 110.806.20.
Okay, do we have a second?
Commissioner Kennedy seconds the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, that moves us on to 9B. So Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 25-0002 for Article 904 for possible action. Mr. Lloyd, will you please announce it?
Yeah, for hearing, discussion, and possible action to initiate an amendment of to initiate an amendment and approve a resolution to amend Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, Article 904, nonconformance, to revise the timeframe to obtain building permits for nonconforming uses of a structure and nonconforming structures that have been partially or totally destroyed, and to clarify the requirement for bringing a nonconforming use of land or nonconforming use of a structure into compliance with current development code provisions, and all matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. If the proposed amendments are initiated, the Planning Commission may recommend approval of the proposed ordinance as submitted, recommend approval with modifications based on input and discussion at the public hearing, or deny the proposed amendment. If approval is recommended, the Planning Commission is asked to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect. So representing Washoe County in this matter is Planner Julie Olander.
All right, Julie, floor is yours.
Good evening. As Mr. Lloyd said, this is a development code update to revise and clarify languages that's in Article 904, conformances. The proposed changes are to assist with the nonconforming structures to acquire a building permit. The proposal will update the following sections in 904. 904-10E, which states concerning types of nonconformances, nonconforming development, and we're proposing to add the word property in on that section, just to clarify that and make it more clear what they're speaking to. And then in 904.25A, 4 and 5 is concerning nonconforming uses of structures. And basically what we're doing is we're trying to extend the time for people to obtain a building permit from 6 months to 24 months. There's been situations where the 6 months is just not enough time, where people have non-conforming structures that get destroyed or damaged through fires or whatever, and they have to get a building permit. And again, in 904-30A, 3 and 7, which is concerning non-conforming structures, it's the same thing. We're trying to let them, so the other one was uses, so you have a use going on in a structure that's non-conforming, and this is the structure itself, and extend that from 6 months to 24 months. And then in 904-60, we're adding some language primarily to clarify that section, and that basically what we're doing is saying that the structure, the land or use can be that's greater than 10%. That triggered nonconformance is at that time of the building permit. It be issued a discretionary permit for expansion of the nonconforming use, such as a special use permit. So again, just more language to clarify what is going on in those nonconforming uses or structures. A community meeting was held on February 26th from 5 to 6. We had 7 in-person people attending and about 6 to 8 attending by Zoom. And there was some confusion about what this was concerning, but they were asking, primarily they asked about what was being changed, and I explained to them 6 to 24 months, and then when would the changes be finalized. And then there was also an interest if this would impact City of Reno or Sparks, which it will not. We did receive one email that's been included in your staff report, and then we are required by code to have this notice publicly in the newspaper, and then also the Citizen Advisory Board chair and board members at least 10 days in advance, and that was done. Staff can make all 4 required findings as stated here, and I'm available for any questions, and I provide a possible motion. This is an amendment to the code, and we, Washoe County, are the applicant and the representative is next. We're the whole ball, so there's not a person that would speak for me. So I just want to explain that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions for her before we go to public comment? Okay, go ahead.
Kennedy has a question. Why does it go from 6 to 24 months? That seems like a really big change to me.
So we first thought 12 months, and then I think you received a letter, and it was included in your staff report, of someone that was caught in a fire. And as we talked more and more about it, we realized that there can be delays with insurance, getting the insurance companies involved in the damage. And then also, as people come in for building permits, they might think, oh, I can do this, and then it turns out there's more damage to the building or something changes in what their request is. So we felt 24 months was a very substantial amount of time that should cover all scenarios. We just don't want to come back to this again someone come up and they need, if 12 months didn't work for them, that they would have a problem with it. So we were trying to be generous. It doesn't come up that often, but when it does, we want to be able to make sure people are able to reestablish those uses.
Well, it just seems like 24 months is a long time for it to be an eyesore in the neighborhood. That's my only concern.
If I can follow up on that just briefly, one of the issues too is after a big event, we've seen the last several years, there tends to be a lack of architects or residential designers because they're all obviously working to address these issues. So I know it may not seem like much, but 6 months goes by very quickly.
Oh, I agree. 6 months is too short.
Right.
I'm just wondering if 24 is too long, if there's something in the middle that might be more reasonable. That's what I'm bringing up.
Oh, understood. Thanks.
Any other questions before we go to public comment? No? All right, let's open up public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment in chambers. I have no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, close public comment, bring it back to the board. Go ahead, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I guess my concern is there any portion of this delay caused by staff, or is it just strictly on the onus of the applicant?
Yeah, I don't know that it would be I'm not going to be placing blame necessarily. Oftentimes you find that there are a number of required corrections that need to be made, and oftentimes it may take a number of iterations for a set of plans to be issued. And we find that, as Ms. Olander mentioned, the time that it is taking for insurance agencies to work with their clients and issue the funds necessary for them to begin construction has been taking longer and longer. And for a number of reasons, that's why we've come with the 24-month recommendation to you all.
Okay.
Good. All right, any other questions, comments, discussion? Not seeing any, I'll open it up for a motion. Somebody want to make a motion on it? I'll make the motion. I move that after given reasoned consideration of information contained in staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission initiate and recommend approval of WDCA 25-0002 to amend Washoe County Chapter 110 Development Code within Article 904 Noncompliance. I further move to authorize the chair to sign the resolution contained in Attachment A on behalf of the Washoe County Planning Commission and to direct staff to present a report on this commission's recommendation to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners within 60 days of today's date. The recommendation for approval is based on the ability to make at least one of the following 4 findings: consistency with master plan, specify which one was made, I just did, in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.810.15E. I can actually make all 4 of them. Made a motion, do we have a second?
Commissioner Lazarewski, I can make all 4 findings. I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have 1 against, 4-4. Motion passes. All right, moving on to 9B. special use permit case number WSUP 25-0006 for Sunseeker Solar for possible action. Mr. Lloyd, will you please announce?
Yeah, for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve a special use permit for, one, the establishment of a 250-megawatt photovoltaic generation facility and a 200-megawatt battery energy storage system, which is an energy production renewable use. Two, construction of a 345 kV substation to connect to the previously approved 345 kV generation tie line that was through WSUP 23003, the Prana transmission line, which is a utility services use. Three, major grading for 1,108 acres of ground disturbance. Four, a request to vary all parking design requirements. And five, a request to vary landscaping design requirements. This project meets the standard for a project of regional significance because it will generate more than 5 megawatts of electricity and requires construction of a substation. It will require approval by the regional planning authorities before any approval at the county level would take effect. The project also requires a recommendation to amend the regional utility corridor map of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan from the Board of County Commissioners to identify the location of the new substation. This project will also need to comply with all federal and state approvals before any approval at the county level would take effect. And representing Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Courtney Weike.
Courtney, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Senior Planner Courtney Weike. Promise I will not repeat that entire spiel. It's quite the load there with the project description. The item before you is the special use permit WSUP 25-0006 for Sunseeker Solar. The project is located 4 miles north of Fish Springs Road on Rainbow Way and approximately 43 miles north of Reno in the Honey Lake Valley. On 23 undeveloped parcels. All parcels have a regulatory zone of general rural, a master plan designation of rural, and are located in the high desert area planning area. The surrounding area, is generally developed or undeveloped private parcels. Okay, so the requests before you. The applicant is seeking to construct a photovoltaic solar energy system with up to 250 megawatts of power generation, a battery electrical storage system with up to 200 megawatts, and an on-site project substation proposed to be connected to a previously approved 345 kV generation tie line known as the Rainbow Way Transmission Corridor to the NV Energy Fort substation on 1,128 acres of privately owned land, as I said, comprised of 23 undeveloped parcels. The second part of the request is for major grading of up to 1,108 acres of disturbance. And the last portion of their request is to vary all parking design requirements and vary the landscaping design requirements. Above is just the specific code section. While creating this PowerPoint, I did notice that there was an error in the staff report. There is no request to vary the height. This is the only place where that was mentioned, but that was a mistake. The proposed photovoltaic facility will include approximately 439 photovoltaic modules on single-axis tracker systems or a fixed supportive structure. The tracker system allows movement of the panels such that they track the sun to ensure maximum exposure. The solar arrays will be a maximum of 14 feet in height. The modules will be tied to a 200 megawatt battery electrical storage system, which will be located within a 10-acre area of the substation on the western side of the project lease area. The BESS, battery electrical storage system, maybe that'll be easier to say, would encompass approximately 6 acres, graded flat with compacted gravel surrounding each unit and throughout the substation area. These are systems housed in structures similar in appearance to a cargo container that include battery infrastructure, climate control, fire, and fire suppression. If the final battery storage design involves structures that do end up resembling a cargo container, they will be required to meet the design standards laid out in Washoe County Code Article 306.10G, which specifies those design standards. The proposed substation is classified as a utility services use type. The substation will be co-located with the battery energy storage system in the eastern corner of the project area and would connect to the previously approved GenTie transmission line. This was permit number WSUP 23-0003 Prana transmission line, which runs approximately 5 miles south to the NV Energy Fort Sage substation along the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency's designated Rainbow Way Regional Utility Corridor. The application indicates that the ownership for the Prana Solar project that I previously just cited has changed since its approval in 2022. However, the entitlement to construct the transmission line in accordance with the requirements of the SUP, the special use permit, are still valid. The applicant intends to connect to the GenTie line once constructed. All project area improvements are located outside of the required setbacks for each parcel, shown in the red dashed line on the site plan. The project area is predominantly surrounded by vacant parcels of open rangeland, with the exception of one parcel located south, 500 feet or so south of the project border with a mobile home, unsure if it's actually occupied, and a number of abandoned vehicles. The location of the only structure building in this case, the substation, is located in the furthest most corner of the project area in relation to this parcel. Now we'll just go over some of the design standards and requirements for the project. Access to the site would be via an unpaved public right-of-way, Rainbow Way, and utility access easement, which stretches the entire length of the Rainbow Way transmission corridor from the project site to the NV Energy Fort Sage substation. The development code requires 1 parking space per employee during peak employment shift, 1 handicapped accessible space, and 1 loading space for every 20,000 square feet of gross floor area. Parking for the utility services use type is determined during the review process. The solar facility will be controlled from a remote site with 4 employees, and intermittent on-site work may be necessary once constructed. Therefore, the project proposes to provide two parking spaces in front of the power generation facilities, one of which will be required to be accessible. Special use permits do allow certain standards to be varied with an special use permit approval. The applicant has requested to waive all parking lot improvements that are required in Article 410, parking and loading, on the basis that the facility is in a rural area without paved roads. And staff does agree that the parking lot design, wheel stops, striping and marking, paving, landscaping, and lighting requirements do not fit the surrounding environment. Therefore, staff has provided conditions in Exhibit A, waiving the parking requirements found in Article 410.25A and C through G. Article 412, landscaping. The project proposes no formal landscaping. Article 412.10D provides an exemption to the landscaping requirements for energy production renewable use types when located more than 1 mile from any residence, which exempts this project from all landscaping requirements outside of those required for parking areas. For similar reasons to the parking request, staff is supportive of the applicant's request to waive the landscaping standards required for parking areas. specifically because the solar facility is located a great distance from any nearby development, public view shed, and is in an area with native vegetation and no available water for irrigation. Article 438, grading. The special use permit includes a request for major grading up to 1,108 acres of disturbance. There will be no measurable cut or fill necessary for the project. The terrain is primarily flat with 0 to 2% slopes throughout the entire project area. Therefore, the proposed project exceeds the major grading thresholds identified in Article 438 A1, Roman numeral 1C, grading of an area of more than 4 acres on a parcel of any size. The Washoe County Engineering Division reviewed the application and provided a condition of approval requiring the grading and drainage plan, requiring a grading and drainage plan, and indicated they had no concerns about site suitability. All proposed grading must be consistent with Washoe County Code, specifically Article 438 grading. Article 812, this project does meet the standard for a project of regional significance because it will generate more than 5 megawatts of electricity and will create a new substation. As a project of regional significance, this application requires a conformance review by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission. The proposed substation requires a regional plan amendment to add the utility use and site, and this amendment must be sponsored by the Board of County Commissioners. If the Planning Commission approves the special use permit, the permit will not go into effect until after the regional planning authorities take final action. Staff does believe that the proposed amendment is consistent with the Envision Washoe 2040 Master Plan and High Desert Planning Area Vision Statement, as detailed on pages 14 through 17 of the staff report. A neighborhood meeting was held on Monday, January 20th, 2025. Notices were mailed to 81 property owners. 4 members of the public attended. The applicants responded to questions regarding the permitting process, construction timeline, clarification on potential noise and light impacts, and the potential positive impacts for the local community from the proposed project. All neighborhood meeting materials, including a summary and audio recording, were included as attachment E to your staff report. And I don't have a slide for public comment because we did receive some fairly recently. Hopefully, I believe those were distributed to you. 2 public comments in support of the project. A total of 22 different agencies and county departments were sent the application for comment. All proposed conditions of approval were incorporated appropriately. No comments of concern were raised. Notices were sent to 77 unique property owners. Staff only received clarifying phone calls and emails, and no opposition was received. Oh, I did have the 2 public comments were received in support of the project. Apologize. Staff does believe all the findings can be made and has provided rationale for each of those within the staff report. Additional findings are required for special use permits that are projects of regional significance, and staff does believe those findings as well can be made and have provided those in the staff report. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I have provided a possible motion for your consideration for approval of the project. And I'm available for any questions. The applicant is here and available as well. I do not believe they plan to do a formal presentation.
So the applicant does not wish to do a presentation? Okay. All right. Do we have any questions for them before we go to public comment? Go ahead.
Commissioner Kennedy has a couple questions. How close is this to the Paiute area?
Paiute, like basically tribal lands?
Yeah, tribal lands.
Without, and I do have the environmental up and ready, but let me look to my applicant. Are you aware how? No. The applicant stated that he believes that they are approximately 14 miles away. I can look through the document and see if I could. I'm actually in the cultural
Hey,
resources
Courtney, can you
section.
pull up your presentation again? And well, I know in your staff report, there's a pretty good map.
I couldn't figure it out from the map, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay. And again, the distance is quite a bit further than it may appear, only because they had to zoom out so far. But yeah, that appears to be probably 14 miles, as Ms. Wyke indicated.
Okay, and then I have a second question, probably for him. Right now, the power in Palomino Valley is very sporadic. We lose power about once a month. Will this increase our power stability once this is in place?
I may defer to Mr. Moore, who possibly can answer that question.
Yes, this will make it much more reliable, and this is also part of why we're putting in the 200 megawatts of battery energy storage. It's kind of interesting because it's 200 megawatts of battery energy storage, but when it dispatches, goes out to your house, it drains the batteries down, and you get a total of 800 megawatts that dispatches out during peak electrical loads. So it is all part of the reliability structure of NV Energy. It's also all part of the renewable energy program of the state of Nevada. And in NV Energy, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I was just talking with a company called Mark IV. They're developing a large industrial complex in Story County, just down off of Interstate 80. And they're telling the new tenants of the Mark IV industrial park that they'll be up to 12 years waiting for the power connections because there's not enough power generated in the state of Nevada. Mm-hmm. So a project like this is really vital, particularly for ongoing land use, industrial growth that take up large amounts of power. We just worked on another project. It's just out by the Tracy Power Plant. It's for a company out of Colorado called Tract Corporation. And they're developing data centers. Every data center needs about 150 to 200 megawatts of power, which is how much we're going to produce. And that would only go for one data center. We've now done and approved 2 data centers for Tract out in that Truckee-Reno industrial complex just south of the Tracy Power Plant. So there's a lot of growth coming, and that needs power. And so this is just all part of that. Get it up, get the generation going, and then get those power purchase agreements with those people who need that kind of power. But it will make all the system more reliable. We did a interconnection study with Prana and Plus Corporation with NV Energy on connecting into that Fort Sage. And then Plus pulled out, Prana pulled out. But from that interconnection study, NV Energy was able to tell us what all the upgrades are necessary to support the grid system and to take on this kind of power so that we can wheel it and distribute it throughout northern Nevada. So, yeah, it's going to make it much better.
Well, we would like to get to the point we don't lose power every month, so
It would be
that
nice.
would be a nice change. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have any other questions before public comment?
Yeah, Commissioner Lazarewski, I have some questions for staff. On the schedule for this, I see in the report that it's proposed to start construction in the first half of 2026. I know that in the past on Prana, we gave 2 years to pull all building permits. I see in this case, we're giving 4 years to pull all building permits. Are we confident that that's enough time, that this project's not going to be back in front of us for extensions and reapprovals?
Courtney Wyke for the record. That's a difficult question probably for myself to ask. We just recognized, having seen the neighboring project, that they are likely, I believe they are either have or will be coming for an extension, so we did propose that longer time period. But to that end, I may ask the applicant if the applicant feels 4 years is sufficient.
I think 4 years would be
Can
sufficient.
you just state your name for the record?
Oh, my name is Brent Moore. I'm
Thank
with
you.
Altrera Group and Schwimm-Brizzi Solar LLC. 4 years is a good time period. There's a couple of things that are outside of the control of Schwimm-Brizzi, and one of those is the interconnection. And when we do interconnections, you apply every 6 months, and they put you in what we call a cluster. So if you have a cluster of, say, 20 people in that cluster that all want interconnections, they start the study on that total 20. Then they give you a preliminary report. And then usually what happens is out of that 20, 1 or 2 of them say, we don't like those terms, and they drop out. And then the process starts all over again. And then NV Energy gets like another 90 days. And so now we're down to 18 in the cluster. And they go 90 more days, and they give us another preliminary report. And then we find out, gosh, darn it, another couple of people dropped out. Start all over again. So sometimes...
Does this project have an interconnection agreement?
Not yet. You know, it wouldn't make any sense to go apply to NV Energy, because once you have the interconnection agreement signed, you have to deliver this power on the date you say you're going to deliver it. Because if you don't, you're messing up the whole system and the load on the system. And if the load gets unbalanced, if they'd planned on 250 megawatts and you don't deliver, you're going to goof up everybody.
Are you under the impression that an interconnection agreement is a power purchase agreement?
No, not at all. Not at all. The interconnection agreement is just simply an agreement you sign with NV Energy that says you're allowed to convey your electrons across the grid. And the agreement says, in order for the grid to uphold itself and stay stable, it's going to require certain kinds of improvements, upgrades. And the agreement allows then the NV Energy to either charge you directly for the upgrades, because they only benefit Schwimm-Brizzi Solar, or they say to you, this upgrade affects every ratepayer in Nevada. It affects everybody on the grid. And so we're going to have an agreement with you to reimburse you those capital costs of that upgrade over this period of time at this kind of interest rate. And so that's what you're banging out. And that's what you're kind of negotiating or arguing over is, well, that upgrade really isn't for me. That upgrade is so that you can let more people connect online within a given region with new generation production. Or that upgrade is because you want to build Greenlink, because you want to convey those electrons to Southern California who pays more for it. And that's something that the guys back in Nebraska that own NV Energy want to see happen to increase the value of their investment in NV Energy. So all those things you negotiate out with electrical engineers and designers and planners, and that's what we call an interconnection agreement. That's what you have to sell your electrons, to get them onto the grid and then convey them to buyers. Power purchase agreements are with individual off-takers. So that's where somebody's saying, hey, I need your 200 megawatts, and I want it dedicated to me, and I'm running a casino in Vegas. So they sign a power purchase agreement to make sure they get your electrons and they don't have the problem that Ms. Kennedy's having where, hey, sorry, we're not sending them to you because you don't have a personal power purchase agreement. You're the person we get to give you the rolling blackout so that we can guarantee the person that signed the power purchase agreement his power.
Are you representing that power reliability issues in the North Valleys are a problem of transmission capacity and bulk electric service?
Not entirely. You know, sometimes there are log jams in the transmission, but I think in this case, where we're at in this valley, we've got several good transmission systems. The Alturas intertie line is one of the large transmission systems that come through the region and hits into Fort Sage. There are other systems where there are bottlenecks. You know, PG&E tries to take some power out of this area, but they also have bottlenecks in the Feather River Canyon, which is one of those bottlenecks is what caused one of the worst fires in California history, where they burned down the town of Paradise because they were using a historic transmission line that sagged and arced. But I think in general, the transmission systems is better here, but however, there is a problem, and it's been recognized by the Public Utility Commission, that we had two different energy companies. We had Sierra Pacific Power and we had NV Energy. And they didn't plan incorporating each other. So that's why we have the Green Link proposed, although it's been under litigation, because that Green Link helps to tie the north and the south together so that we get better reliability. And we also, as we expand out generation, we have better markets for that generation through the Green Link. So yeah, they're going through a lot of planning to integrate the two different systems together to better serve the public, both North and South Nevada. And I think it's coming along. Yeah.
So to get back to schedule, does this project have high voltage breakers ordered?
What do you mean by high voltage breakers?
You're 345. You've got to step it up to 345 to
Yeah.
connect to the Prana line.
Right, and the reason we're going to 345 is, and the reason Piranha went 345 is because the transmission line leaving and going out of Fort Sage is 345. Fort Sage equipment is 345. And 345 is the most efficient way of conveying those electrons anyway. But so what we want to do is step everything up. The other way they could have done it is they could have went with a lower voltage going down to Fort Sage, but then in the Fort Sage substation, they would have had to step it up at that location to 345. But all the electrical engineers, whether it was for NV Energy or whether it was for Prana or Schrem-Brazil, they all said, doesn't make sense to try to step it up at Fort Sage, just do it at the site, convey it in 345, keep it at 345 so you don't have to have these step-ups. And that's, so it became an engineering model where people looked at the cost and benefit of over-designing that 345 and when does it pay off. And the engineer said you're better off doing it this way.
So the schedule that's been provided in this application suggests that you guys will be completing construction sometime in early 2027. Are you confident that you will have that equipment at that time?
Well, is anybody confident that we're going to have stuff on the shelves? According to the newspaper.
Do you know what the lead time is currently for 345 kV breakers?
Yeah, we have to get final designs, and then we have to get ordered to get the equipment out approximately 8 to 10 months ahead of time. So we have to get right on it, and then we have to get orders in order for that stuff to get here in time for the contractor to have it and be able to build it. So yeah, we need an 8-month window.
If I told you that the lead time on 345 kV breakers is 36 months from order, would that impact the amount of time you need to get this done?
If that occurred, if we had a 36-month wait and they couldn't figure out how to go purchase somebody else's weight in the line.
Okay.
If you made it 5 years, it'd be better.
As to the transmission line, you guys represented in here that Prana Solar isn't happening, essentially, and that capacity will be available on that line, but we just got a
345 kV line typically will carry 1,200 megawatts. So Prana had a 100 megawatt project. We have 250. There's another one coming down the line that's a little bit east of this project. That's another 250, 300 megawatts. There's another phase. So in other words, we could go up to 1,200 megawatts of power production in that vicinity to max out that line. And that would be the most cost-effective way to do it, is to max out the amount that we can send down the line, which is 1,200 megawatts on that line.
Are all those projects applying together for a GIA to share a terminal at Fort Sage?
Well, that's yet to be determined too. Right now, the Prana project was passed on to Plus passed it back, and now those permits are held by the landowner. And the landowner is trying to come up with new people to become EPC contractors to actually build it. So if they can find a builder, you know, for example, if NextEra, who built Fish Springs down the street, says, yeah, I'll pick up your 100 because it's fully permitted. Both, and that project has to be permitted in California and Nevada. It's split in half between the two jurisdictions. So if NextEra came along and said, hey, Dr. Hooper, who's the owner of that land, we want those permits and we'll go build it, then you know, they'll jump on that. And then what will happen is we'll coordinate with them to make this thing happen. Through FERC regulations, everybody has to cooperate. So you don't have exclusive ownership of that line. You have to give access to it. And so we'll coordinate with that. We have an agreement in place with the next door neighbor who is putting together a project, because in our site plan, kind of on the northern end, we left a corridor through there so that they could pull their power to get over to Rainbow Way to convey the electrons they want to build, because we didn't want to cut them off and we didn't want to force them to have to route their intertie line to get to Rainbow Way, like through the south, because it's just easier to just make sure they already have a dedicated right of way. And we do our site planning to allow that, and just give them the most efficient access to Rainbow Way in the corridor once they get their authority to construct permit, and then come before this commission and get their special use permit, which I think you'll probably see them probably sometime later this summer in that project. So everybody's coordinating, and there again, you know, the substations, we can coordinate those too. You know, we don't necessarily, there was an approved substation on the Prana project, and it's across the road, a Rainbow Way, from where Shrimberzy is doing. So in a lot of ways, it wouldn't make sense to go, if we're already building this substation on Shrimberzy, it's easier just to pull a cable under the road and put it into this substation to get it onto the intertie line than it would be to build another complete duplicate system across the road. So those are things that we will work out as people are moving forward to actually want to build and get it done.
On the topic of substations, are you comfortable you can build your 345 substation under the 35-foot height limit that exists on the property?
Yeah, you know, the problem won't be the substation itself. And once it gets going down the corridor, you're looking at utility poles. And I don't think they have to be much higher than that. But I don't believe your code regulates utility poles. If you go back and look at it.
The Prana the Prana line does have a height waiver as part of that application and approval. Have you seen?
Does this code regulate the utility poles?
The code regulates the height
Of utility poles?
of the poles, yes.
Oh, okay. And what's the utility pole height?
I'm sorry? That's what I was going to guess. Yeah, I believe it's the same height as the required maximum height for any structure within the regulatory zone, which is 35 feet.
Well, typically a 345 kV line has to have a certain distance from the ground, which is going to necessitate, and the only way you could do a 35-foot height is you'd have to stack a bunch of them close, and you'd have to have no gap, no sway in that line.
Yeah, the transmission line, as previously approved for Prana, does have a waiver of the 35-foot height limit. I'm asking you about your application.
And that's the special use
here.
permit would be utilized, is that special use permit for that line.
Yes.
So that
But
will-
within your property, your substation, you don't feel that you need any of the bus work or lines
Higher than
within your
35.
substation to be higher than 35 feet?
No. So when you look at the substation heights of where they come down and tie off, yeah, they're not much more than, they're under 35. And then they'll go up to the poles that then stretch out across down the Rainbow Way. Yeah, so I think we're fine as far as the substation, but those utility poles will be higher than that because we have to have, I don't recall now, but I think it's like 25 feet you have to have distance from the ground on 345 kV. I believe that's what it was. And so you got to get a pretty high. And then, they want to string double lines on it, so it makes the height of each pole a little higher. Yeah. Yep. So I think we're fine as far as the 35 feet within the substation. Yep.
Those are all the questions that I have for the applicant and staff.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment in chambers. I do have one hand raised on Zoom. Charles Hooper, please unmute. State your first and last name for the record.
Yes, my name is Charles Hooper of the Hooper Family Trust, and we're the ones that basically control the Prana transmission line. I just wanted to state support for Sunseeker Solar. I do believe that this project will bring power to both residents of Washoe County, and answering Ms. Kennedy, I do believe it's going to greatly increase reliability to residents of Washoe County. This power also will go to other power needs of Washoe County, as Mr. Moore stated, such as being done out at the Reno Regional Park. And I just wanted to state that we are in the process of contacting other people regarding the Prana transmission line and the Calneva project, which is a 150 megawatt project. So I do believe that the development of this vicinity of Washoe County with solar power is going to greatly enhance the power needs of northern Nevada and elsewhere. So I just wanted to state my support for this project, and I have another minute and 30 seconds to go. I just want to bring forth the knowledge to the commission, which you probably already know. Mr. Moore had mentioned Nextera, who has successfully created a power project 5 years ago, and it was approved. And Nextera would be a perfect partner for us. We don't have anything consummated with Nextera, but I will tell the commission we have reached out to Nextera, and they're, shall I say, a formidable utility that dedicates 55% of their power production into solar. So we're hopeful that we can get some sort of agreement, possibly with Nextera. I don't want to speak too soon because, as I said, nothing has been consummated yet, but we are working toward that goal. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, that's essentially my statement, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment?
I have no further public comment in chambers, no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Do we have any more questions, or do we have any discussion? Okay, well, with that, then I'll open up a motion. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Courtney White Key, Senior Planner. I believe the motion includes a reference to the previous applicant. During this process, the applicant, basically the consultant, changed, and I noticed, I believe it still says UES in the motion. It needs to be updated to ULITA, and it is on the front page. It's just not in the motion. I apologize for that. So it's UELITA, and I believe for the record, it would be appropriate to update to ULITA as part of the motion. And that is, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, there we go. I'm saying it wrong. I'm going on. I apologize. Can you pull that up? I did update. Right? Yeah, apologize. I should have noted that in my presentation. Apologize. It is underlined on the overhead.
So that's the one. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Lazareski, I'd like to preface my motion by saying that I do think that we're going to be seeing this back in front of us, because I don't think that you are going to be able to get this done in the time that you've represented, given the interconnection timeline and the lead time on long lead equipment. And I do think that you are going to find that you're going to want a height waiver for your substation. But those things being said, none of that impacts whether or not this is, I can make the findings that this is an appropriate use of this place. And given that we have made these same findings for adjoining solar projects, I move that, after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and the information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve with conditions special use permit case number WSUP 25-0006 for Ultria Group LLC on behalf of Shreem Breeze Solar LLC, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code, Section 110.810.30, and the additional development of natural resources, findings in accordance with Washoe County Code, Section 110.810.35. I further move to vary the development code standards for the parking section specified in WCC section 110.410.25A and C through G, and waive the industrial landscaping standards of WCC section 110.412.45 and the civic landscaping standards of WCC section 110.412.40.
All right, and I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right, that moves us on to item number 10, Chair and Commission items, future agenda items. Do we have any requests? Hearing none, moving on to 10B, request for information from staff. Mr. Lloyd, I think last month the county commissioners made a dark sky proclamation, and so I would just ask that the county please put that back on their radar. I think that's something that county should go after the definition of the word dark sky, because in our code it does not define what the word dark sky actually is. So anybody else have anything? Okay. Moving on to 11, Director and Legal Counsel items, report on previous Planning Commissioner items.
I do have 2 items to report on. At the April 8th County Commission meeting, the county adopted the changes to Article 610, the final subdivision map article, as well as the Commission adopted the Housing Package 2.5A at that meeting as well. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Anything from legal?
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
All right, do we have any public comment?
There's no public comment in chambers. I have no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, with that said, it's 7:13, meeting's adjourned.